on any of the four topics that we just talked about, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, we will
Very
move on
good.
to the next portion.
All right. Thank you. Now we're really getting into the forward look of the purpose for the regional meetings. This is kind of the inflection point of the end of of kind of the review of the 2025 activity at the legislature and beginning to get ready uh, the ABI public policy process going forward in 2026. And just kind of a description of what we're doing. Today, we invite both ABI members and non-members to give us input on the issues that either they're seeing with their organizations or in the communities in Northwest Iowa that need attention from the legislature and other policymakers. So that's the purpose of this virtual meeting and the ones that we're having on all four corners of the compass and in central Iowa. Uh, After this, we will break into subject matter committees, policy committees that we have here at ABI for ABI members. We'll hold those in Des Moines, and we will go through the public policy that's before them. This is where we invite the subject matter experts of your organizations to participate. If you have a good tax person, please send them to our tax committee. If you've got somebody that is a whiz at HR, our workforce committee could really use the help of someone that has been working at administering training programs or other HR issues. Uh, our environment committee is one of our most active committees. But those committees really provide the intelligence to the policy process that we need. When that process is over, they forward all their work to a legislative committee, and that legislative committee really acts as a clearinghouse where they're going to make sure that one committee's work does not collide with the direction another committee has taken. A Northwest Iowa example of that was our Environment Committee got together and determined that there was a proposal to raise the sales tax by a penny to put that into environmental remediation, a little bit of outdoor placemaking, and I thought that was something that the full weight of ABI should get behind. Um, at the same time, the same week, the tax committee met, and uh, and it was headed up at that time by the late Larry Countryman of Wilson Trailer, who noticed that, well, these are all good intentioned policies that would get funded, but doing it with a sales tax increase could be very harmful to border area companies. So please reconsider. So that was something that the legislative committee uh, did take under advisement, and eventually the legislative committee made the determination we will follow that issue and watch that tax mechanism, and only once we can see that there's a benefit in the way that it is developed will we jump in and get busy on that. So that's the role of the legislative committee. And then finally, the recommendations of the legislative committee are formed into policy priorities by our full board of directors, some 60 members plus, uh, going through every entry into our policy book, making sure it's exactly as it should be going forward. So again, this is a call out for your organization, yourselves, or those that you would want to send to take place in our policy committees. Now's the part where I kind of talk about their purview for the different committees. Be thinking in your mind what you want to bring up today to make sure that we're taking away as things that we're going to make sure we have focus on. Coming right up on August 5th, we have a workplace and product safety meeting. This is where we typically have several attorneys that work in the workers' compensation space. This is an HR committee uh, if you have experts in that area. We also give this committee the important job of watching tort issues for employers, and the drug and alcohol testing bill that Brad just highlighted came out of this area. So if you have concerns in that area, this is the committee to sign up for. August 14th is the next one, and that is going to be where uh, we talk a lot about employment workforce, specifically as it goes to some of the important barriers to employment. Uh, we've recognized the lack of childcare or the cost of childcare to be a real barrier to getting people back into the workforce. We have still not recovered from our workforce participation that we had pre-COVID, and we think that childcare and many and workforce training and recruitment issues uh, are really things that have been in the way of getting people back into the workforce. So we're looking for the solutions there for things that we can bring forward. The unemployment bills that we've worked on have come out of the Unemployment Workforce Committee. And then also all of the benefits that you can think of that employers provide to employees, particularly healthcare, those all fall under this committee. And for example, that pharmacy pricing legislation was heavily studied by this committee. They had policy to making sure that we were engaged to help smalls, but to hold the line on something that just raised costs for employers without it being targeted to those that needed the help. On August 19th, we're going to have the Environment Committee together. And we think that we're going to have a pretty active environment committee uh, throughout the year, as we do always do, but particularly this year, because we think that there's a chance that there will be less federal money flowing down to administer many of the required environmental monitoring programs in the air and the water space. And we're going to have to make sure that we have well thought solutions on how we can help the state move forward on making sure that those are just not costs that suddenly get picked up by businesses. So that is an active committee. There will be quite a bit of federal action on the weight of regulation coming in the next year or two. So this is one, if you have an environmental footprint for your business or your organization, you'll want to have somebody at this committee meeting. One of our largest, committees as far as attendance and as far as the range of issues that they cover was our Economic Growth Committee, and that's meeting on the 21st of August. Uh, and it would have been covering in this past year that entire suite of business incentive taxes, tax credits, the reworking that was done there. They also have prominent in the workforce housing tax credit area, where we've been working very hard to make sure that both urban and rural Iowa has the amount of tax credits that needed to keep activity going with developers to make sure that we're getting the workforce housing that we're needing, not only for factory and line workers, but we're seeing a greater need in communities around the state asking for that type of housing stock where they can attract perhaps somebody that would be your CFO for your company or something else, so that they can find a comfortable place to come and locate their families. Um, so that is a big committee for us. We were involved a year ago in resetting our energy policy. There was a large energy bill that the governor brought that had many pieces, and it was an omnibus bill. It eventually did not pass last year. We expect it to be back, and even just today, we are sending messages out to our committee to see how they felt about the current status of our energy policy. So that is a broad-reaching committee. Would ask that you get some of your folks in front of that. And finally, the tax committee will meet on August 26th, and that is, going to be dominated by the property tax conversations that we're having, as well as also looking at how are we catching all the pieces of the big, beautiful bill that just passed, which had quite a bit of business tax policy involved. Iowa has a method of adopting automatically moves that are made at the federal level. And we imagine that that will come with quite a price tag that'll have to be studied in Iowa. And we'll need to see how that is caught and implemented here at the state level. I think now at this point, I see that we have Jacob, and I don't know, Brad, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce Jacob, and then we can hear his talk, and then we'll circle back and get everybody's ideas of those things that we need to carry into our policy committees.
Yeah, thank you very much, JD, and thank you very much, Representative Bossman, for joining us today. I know you're busy with your work with Senator Grassley's office, and thanks for taking time out to do this. And so, just a brief introduction. Representative Bossman represents House District 14, which is Western Woodbury County, which is parts of Sioux City, Sergeant Bluff, and some rural precincts. He's serving his fifth term in the Iowa House, and he chairs the Infrastructure, Capitals, and Budgets Subcommittee. He's done that for several years now, and he's really a strong friend of ABI, somebody that we can count on when it comes to key votes, and is very helpful to us, and is always reaching out for feedback on things. And so I'll just go ahead and turn it over to you, Representative Bossman, and thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Thanks, JD, for all the information you provide me during session. But I guess I want to start off by saying thank you for doing this and for everybody who's participating. Um, from when I was first elected, I really was able to gain a lot of important insight from meeting with a lot of the business leaders, the chamber, other stakeholders in the community. Really, in my first year, found out that childcare was becoming a big issue, even when you weren't really hearing about it elsewhere in the state. That it was becoming a barrier to employment, that it was becoming much harder for people to find workers because there was a shortage of accessible childcare in Sioux City. Over the last couple of years, I've really started hearing a lot more about housing, that's becoming an impediment to workforce recruitment because there just isn't affordable housing. I've heard multiple stories from businesses in Sioux City where they'll say, after a year, I finally found somebody that's great, and they're commuting from Rock Valley or Cherokee or wherever. And after 11 months, they haven't been able to find a house in Sioux City that they afford, and they're tired of the commute, and they go back to their old job. So that really is becoming something that's really hampering economic growth. Um, I've heard in regards to unemployment insurance, and that was something I'm sure JD probably touched on. We were able to finally do something about, but that had become a barrier for a lot of employers. Property taxes is something I've been hearing about. I would say last year at the beginning of session, I said that that was by far the number one issue I was hearing from constituents. And it's something that we need to address. It gets much more complicated, and you start to realize there's a reason we haven't really done anything in regards to property taxes in 30 years, even though there's been a lot of people smarter than me down there trying to address this issue. Because when you start talking about lowering property taxes here, it pops up here, or it reduces the revenue here, or the inability to provide this service and that. So it becomes a very complicated issue, but it's something we really need to work toward addressing this year. And I also want to touch a little bit on income taxes. It was something we've really done a lot on for my first year, then to going all the way to 3.8% flat tax. But something that really has real impacts in Northwest Iowa, and I hear in Sioux City, but even up north toward Hayward and Rock Valley, that there were a lot of people that moved out of state. Um, and I think our goal initially was just to stop the bleeding, making sure that that didn't continue to happen. But we're getting to a point now where I'm for the first time hearing people talk about moving back into Iowa now that there's not a tax on retirement income. Maybe they're going to build a house in Iowa. Now that the income tax rate is 3.8%, maybe they're going to move back to Iowa because that difference between Iowa and South Dakota is just not as great as it was before. So that's a lot of the things that that we've been working on, and I just wanted to say most of that is because of conversations like this, and so I'll just open it up to any comments or questions you have, and maybe I can find the next big issue that I'll work on for the next couple of years.
Any questions for Representative Bossman? Feel free to unmute yourself.
This is Lance Emke, and I'm with Heidman Law Firm and also on the school board. And I've been kind of waiting to figure where the right place is to come in and ask a question. more directed to the ABI leadership. Although I appreciate everything that Representative Bosman is doing. The question is, what issues how does ABI blend its work with what we do in determining education funding in particular? And you could say, well, that's in the tax committee, or that's in the this or that. Is it in the workforce committee? It's kind of, where do we introduce that? And I'll be the first to say that you're representing the business community, and that there are the Urban Education Network and the Iowa School Board Association, and of course the Iowa State Teachers Association are all very busy advocating their viewpoint for education. But we don't, I think, get to the point where we talk enough to each other at this level to see where there are synergies, like recognizing that if we're ever going to get to a 2% inflation level, we can't keep asking for a lot more of a percent. But at the same time, we can't compromise education for all the students, because we have specialty education pieces that are dictated through the education process and the structure, so that more it's not evenly spent across the student body. So there are issues to talk about. The question is the ABI going to say, take those to the other advocates, or where is ABI representing businesses going to come in and say, this is what we'd like to see, because in the end, it is a money issue, and it is a tax related issue, and it most certainly is a recruiting issue. If I hear one thing more than anything else, it's not the tax, it's anything else. It's, is your school district showing itself to be competitive to our executives who want to come in with their family, and are they offering the kind of education that those and it's not just executives, that those business leaders want to see if they're moving to our town? That's my question.
Okay. And thank you, Lance, and I'll try to respond. And really, when you're in an association business like we are, it is the feedback from your membership that informs you on what you need to be doing. And of course, as a business group, our view on education is, how did it prepare people to become employees? Okay, and what we are seeing, even anecdotal stories of, I think in our last regional meeting, we had the story was brought forward of an employer that was looking for employees, had 100 applicants. There were two threshold requirements. They had to be able to do 8th grade math, and they had to pass a drug test. And of the 100 applicants, 4 moved forward because they failed one of those two issues. So a lot of the preparedness is where employers weigh in on education generally, and then specifically, our next issue is how we get some specific training to prospective employees, and then once we do that, how do we then continue education for those people as we try to upskill them when we have them working for us? So that in the education space is where we're looking for some traction. So we do have, I think, then another kind of an added layer. Yourself as a school board member, that repeats itself many times in the membership of ABI. So this is a property tax example, not with a city, but not a school, but it's the very same, and it's repeated itself with that. We will do a meeting like this. We did one in Brad, where were we? In Northwest Iowa just 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Lamar's, yeah. And our host happened to be on the city council, and it was the first go round of a property tax issue. And they took their hat off as an ABI member and said, now let me talk to you about the practical effect of what's going on in Des Moines on this. This is why it's something you need to flag for this. We took that back. And so we said, hey, listen, we've got a real issue with towns that are growing, not being able to survive well underneath this form of a property tax issue. We're that channel for our membership. So when we get the anecdotals, we bring them back and have those conversations. I had that conversation directly with both chairs of the Ways and Means Committee after we had members weighing in from cities as a city council person rather than as an ABI member. So that's the channel we try to make sure we have there. We'd like to be thought of as experts on that system, not just as employers, but as a really good place to go for information on how to work it out. And so we seek that out and we bring it back. We don't have a formal way of endorsing broad stroke moves on education, but we will be bringing back all the intel we can gather from our membership. I hope that's somewhat instructive or comes close to the question you're answering.
It does. What committee is the committee that you would expect that to come forward for review by all of ABI?
Okay. Yeah, if you're going to pick committees, I think the workforce committee, because that is so focused on training. Okay. And then we also have statements on education in our economic growth committee because it is recognized as so important for growth. And I'm sorry I gave you a very long answer. If that was the gut of your question, I apologize. But yeah, so start with workforce, end with economic growth, and you're going to get education covered both ways.
Well, and your longer answer was germane to the broader
Okay.
question. I just needed to know, having heard how ABI would exercise its influence, and then I needed to know what channel. So thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, very good. Now we're seeking questions for Jacob. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to ask Representative Bossman? I have one, Jacob, if that's okay. So
Yeah, shoot.
yeah, as the chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, in some of these meetings we've been talking a lot about site preparedness and those types of things. Now that there's such a focus on reshoring manufacturing, that states are now competing to say, okay, we have some very ready places for that next manufacturer to locate that wants to start doing it in the States instead of overseas. We're starting to get competitive with other states and not just certifying these states, but really trying to get the infrastructure out to them. Has there been how do you use your committee in that way? And is there any way to be thinking about going forward on how we try to use that type of approach to get readiness for trying to create new sites?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea and something that definitely would fall in the purview of my committee, in my opinion. It started as basically gambling revenue that was used to kind of shore up, improve, build state infrastructure that had fallen into disrepair. So that's still a big part of the committee, is taking care of the state infrastructure, whether it's at state parks or MHIs or regent universities. But there's also been a push over the last couple of decades to really use a lot of the funds to make Iowa a place where people want to live, visit, move to, things like CAT grants and Destination Iowa. And I think that this would fit into that, in the sense that we want to make sure that Iowa is competitive. We want to make sure that Iowa is a place where our businesses feel like they can build and expand, where people want to locate their businesses here. And if there's things that other states that are doing that we're not, I think that definitely needs to be part of a conversation. One thing that we're always hesitant about, people will always bring us a project. If we've got this old building in this small town, we want you to give us money to renovate this, or, we have this one economic development project and we need your help to get it across the finish line. And we try not to get involved in individual projects, picking winners and losers, because as soon as you fund a water project in Southeast Iowa, pretty soon you're going to have 100 different communities across Iowa that come to you for funding for that. So what we would probably do in that situation is create a fund within either economic development or the Department of Labor or somewhere where then they would come up with the parameters and score projects and probably dole out grants in that fashion. And we might say, well, we're going to put $1 million or 2 million or 5 million or whatever it is in every year toward accomplishing that goal. So I think it's definitely something worth pursuing. I haven't had conversations about it before, but if that's something that other states are doing, and you're hearing from businesses or economic development professionals that we're losing out on projects because of that, then I think that's something we definitely should look into.
Yeah, that's was the benefit of one of our earlier regional meetings. We were starting to hear
Yep.
about it. Illinois was doing it, and you had some border communities in Iowa on that side saying, "Hey, if that's the difference
Yep.
between here or there, we need to figure out how we can be involved." So
And it's definitely infrastructure. If it's not necessarily going toward the project, it's just the infrastructure to support that, then that really fits within our budget purview. Yeah.
Okay. Well, very good. What other questions do we have for Representative Bossman?
Representative Bosman, this is Morgan Haskell, Sealand Mental Health. I know we've spoke a lot, especially about the behavioral health redesign that went live on July 1st. Do you know if there will be any talks of relooking at that, as 2 crisis centers have already closed in the state of Iowa due to massive funding cuts?
So I haven't heard anything since then. We're going to get together on Monday for our first caucus. So maybe some of these things will come up. But this was something I think I told you or I told others. We need to know as things change, because when anytime there's a reorg or legislation, there's always people that are saying, I think this is going to go really bad. And you always have people on the other side saying, no, it'll be just fine. Just wait and see. And so if we get to a point where the changes actually are causing negative things to happen, we need to know about that so we can go back and make those changes legislatively. And that was always part of the conversation. If there is unintended consequences, we're going to fix it. So we need to know, specifics of what's going wrong. And I guarantee there'll be at least a few of us next year trying to push to make changes. So if you have recommendations on what can be changed to help fix that or prevent that from happening elsewhere, please let us know.
Perfect. Yeah, because I sent you an email on what our funding cuts were proposed to be, but we got that drawn down. But then also Medicaid is now, the MCOs are now taking over our integrated health home programs, which help those seriously mental ill get connected with resources within our community. And we have about 16 staff that provide that at our location, and that's being transferred to people in Des Moines. So our clients are now going to have to talk to somebody via phone to figure services out. And a lot of times they don't have minutes or funds to pay for.
Okay.
So I'll send you an email on that as well.
Somebody's still responsible for providing that service. They're just going to be a lot further away, and there's no way of really knowing if that is going to happen.
Correct. Correct. Okay. And to me, it's easier to do it all in-house versus have someone else do it who doesn't know any of our services that are available here in our community. And it's going to probably affect about 1,000 clients.
Okay. 1,000 just in your
just in Siouxland Mental Health.
Just in Siouxland, okay.
But yeah, I'll send you information on that as well.
Okay, please do.
Okay. What other questions do we have for Representative Bossman?
I'll just give a quick update. You kind of alluded to this, JD, but I chair the Transportation, Infrastructure, and Capitals Appropriations Subcommittee. So the RIF, the Rebuild Iowa Infrastructure Fund budget is funded through gambling revenues. It's always generally between $200 and $300 million, fluctuates based on the amount of gambling revenues come in. You saw a spike after COVID, people were gambling more. Nebraska came online. There was more casinos in Illinois at the same time. So we've seen gambling revenues steadily declining. So while I told JD this is a good idea, something that we'll look into, we need to view everything through the lens of declining revenue, and we're going to be continually squeezed. So, while I would encourage everybody to approach us with good ideas, obviously we want to spend the money on the best ways to help Iowans across the state. We might have a situation where instead of having 260 million to spend, maybe we have 180 or 200. So that's just something important for people to keep in mind.
Oops.
Are you back, Representative? Must have had a connection issue there. I think we've got just a couple more slides. If Representative Bossman does come back online, we'll go back to him. But then
Yeah.
we'll make sure we get all of you out of here within the appropriate time frame. We were on our public policy development statements, and JD had described each of those. Does anybody have specific feedback on what we should be working on? We appreciate the comments and questions that have already been relayed. Feel free to unmute.
Yeah, this is the moment where you can say, if I could change one thing, this is what it would be, and let us know what it is, and we'll carry it back to our policy committees. Someone put it well, what keeps you up at night? What is it, the problem that you're trying to solve for your business or your organization? Those are the issues that we want to take forward.
I mean, I guess I'll say it. Morgan Haskell, Freeland Mental Health, more adequate funding for mental health and really looking into the system before changes are made and seeing what's working, because what might work on one side of the state might not work on the other side of the state. So that would be my magic wand.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you.
Others?
I apologize, JD. I'm back.
Oh, there you go. No, that's fine. You just locked up a little bit. That's Zoom normal. So you're getting a good wrap up on the potential decline of gambling revenues, when we lost you. What to move you from there to now, what we've identified property taxes as something. What are another couple of issues that you think might come up this coming session that maybe people aren't thinking about?
That's the big one. As you've mentioned, there will probably be a couple issues that we came up last year that'll probably still be around. Call it the Monsanto issue, ROFR. This might be a couple years away, but I hear in Woodbury County, we hear talk of nuclear energy. There's a lot of talk of homelessness. Those are issues I haven't really heard anything ironed out, but topics I'm hearing more of. I don't know if there's sort of areas for the state to get involved with that. Workforce continues to be the number one issue I'm hearing about. There might be different ways in which we're going about tackling that issue. That still is the issue. And I think that's kind of the lens through which we're reviewing everything, whether it's education, job training, or taxes, childcare and housing, all through the lens of workforce.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Representative.
But yeah, I do think there's going to be a lot of pressure to do something on property taxes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And then, Brad, I think we can go back to input from others, or I think maybe it's time to let folks know how they can be connected to us.
Yeah, you bet, JD. Thank you. Just ways that you can get involved with ABI. JD has talked about our public policy committee meetings in August. You saw those dates and the registration for that. That is for members only, so just a caveat there. And then we do have our executive open golf outing at the end of August, which is at Glen Oaks Country Club in West Des Moines, one of the premier clubs in Iowa. So be sure to consider that. Then we have our Elevate Iowa Manufacturing Tour, which is October 3rd through the 14th. We're going to be traveling throughout the state with an RV, and we're going to be exposing students and potential job seekers to great manufacturers across the state and really highlighting the jobs and careers that are available in the industry and really what it does for the state of Iowa as far as a great footprint for economic growth and development and all of that. And so there's going to be more information to come on that, but we're excited about that initiative. And then that will climax with the Iowa Manufacturing Conference on October 14th in Altoona. That's a one-day conference where you're going to have workshops, you're going to have keynote speakers, all things manufacturing. And so that's always a well-attended event, so be sure to check that out. Then our legislative briefing and reception, which is one of our premier public policy events in January. That is an event that will have hundreds of ABI members come in, along with dozens of policymakers. Representative Bossman has attended in the past, and we've appreciated that. But we have Democrats and Republicans who do come to that, and it allows you to establish a relationship with your local legislator. And so we do strongly encourage you to do that, and it's worth your while. And then we have Business Day in Des Moines in March. This kind of replaced our Day on the Hill from a few years ago. Now we bring public policymakers to ABI members. And the last couple of years, we've had 200 folks attend each year, where we've had Governor Reynolds and the majority and minority leaders in both parties and both chambers come and present to you at a key point during session. And so that's a really nice event that you'll want to consider attending as well. And then finally, a big part of it is meeting with your legislators, inviting them into your business, reach out to them, have coffee. They want to hear from you, and they want to know what issues are on your mind. So be sure that you're doing that. And then staying connected with ABI, we're on social media, Facebook, X/Twitter. You can find us there. If you do have any questions after this PowerPoint has concluded, you can email JD Davis or myself, and we're happy to help connect you with anything or answer any questions you may have. And we'll take any final questions if anybody has any. If not, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Representative Bossman, and feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.